This theme, Mr. Chairman, is not merely a slogan. It is a reminder of the faith, vision, sacrifices, and the legacies of those who came before us. Our theme is a recognition that the opportunities we enjoy today were secured through the sweat and blood of yesterday's stewards, including those who believed in the transformative power of education long before the fruits of their labor could be seen. As a nation, our heritage was not inherited on a silver platter. It was won with fierce determination and tenacity, won with loyalty and selfless service for the common good of the nation, won with integrity and good name of our founders. As a university, Heritage Christian University, we stand on the shoulders of our founders, teachers, missionaries, and leaders who understood that education is not only about the mind, it is about character, purpose, and service to our nation. Their foresight and courage built the foundation that we as people now stand. But today's theme, Mr. Chairman, also challenges us. What will we do with what has been won for us as a nation? Heritage is not something to be preserved in a frame or left to gather dust in archives. Priceless heritage is preserved, protected, enhanced, and carried forward to future generations. Today's public dialogue, Mr. Chairman, reflects our commitment. We gather not only to listen, but to engage, to learn, to debate, and to reflect on values and issues that shape our life and our world. In an age defined by rapid change, uncertainty, and unprecedented interdependence, the need for informed dialogue has never been greater. As universities have a duty to serve as platforms for such dialogue, offering clarity without arrogance, offering insight without exclusion, and offering solution rooted in both evidence and empathy. To our distinguished panelists, we are honored that you have so graciously joined us to deepen our understanding of both the weight and the blessing of the heritage won for us. Your insights will undoubtedly enrich and inspire us. As we begin, let us reflect on where we have come from, acknowledge the blessings we have received, and set our hearts toward the future we are called to build. May this public dialogue remind us that heritage is both a gift and a responsibility, a victory won in the past and a mission entrusted to us to protect and enhance for posterity. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here, and may God bless our homeland Ghana and make our nation and our university great and strong.
I'll call on the IT team to play for us whilst we all stand. General Sassini. Please, let's stand for that anthem to be played.
Yes,
Thank you very much. Please take your seats. I would now want to invite the moderator for the dialogue, who will take over and invite all the other panelists. We are blessed to have a leading journalist in the person of Mr. Bernard Avle to moderate this dialogue. He is the general manager of City FM and Channel One TV, and the host of City FM's morning show, the City Breakfast Show, and also the point of view on Channel One TV. The City Breakfast Show was adjudged the interactive talk show of the year at the BBC's Africa Radio Awards in 2007 in Nairobi, Kenya, and radio program of the year 2013, 15, 16 by the Chartered Institute of Marketing, Ghana. It was also adjudged the best radio morning show in the English language in 2016, 17, 18, and 19, winning the award 4 consecutive times. And he is an Edward R. Murrow Fellow of Journalism and a Chevening Scholar. Bernard is a fellow of the 5th class of the Africa Leadership Initiative, AU, West Africa, and is a member of the Aspen Global Leadership Network. He holds a bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Ghana and an MBA from Warwick University in the UK. Bernard was adjudged Ghana Journalists Association GJA Journalist of the Year for the year 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, help me to welcome your moderator. You're most welcome. I hand over the rest of the program to Bernard.
Thank you very much. Council Chair, let me change the mic. All right. My voice. Distinguished guests, Council Chair, President of the University, venerable moderators, students, alumni, friends, Heritage Christian University is 10. Hip, hip, hip. Hooray! Heritage Christian University is 10. Hip, hip, hip. Hooray! For the last time, Heritage Christian University is 10. Hip, hip, hip. Hooray! I'd like to thank the organizers for choosing me to be a moderator of this very seminal program in the life of this very impressive university. I'd like to give a quick outline of what the plan is for today, but before that, I'd like to welcome our listeners on 97.3 City FM and 99.7 Joy FM. This program is also streaming live on Joy News Television and Channel One Television. I think you should put your hands together for Heritage Christian University. Having read a couple of live presenter mentions about the university, speaking about the beauty of the campus, I have been totally blown away by the impressive layout, the order, it's unbelievable. And we will probably comment about that before the panel discussion ends. Our task here is very simple: to lead the nation in a reflective conversation about 3 components of our life: reflection on the past, decisions for the present, and then commitments for the future. And a quick way to understand the 10 years. One of my sons asked me, what is the easiest way to get to 10? I said, you add 3 plus 3 plus 4. So we're discussing the topic of upholding our heritage won for us, red, gold, and green, with 3 frames of reference: the past that we have inherited, the present that we must protect, and the future that we must pass on. So that's the first 3. The next 3 is the panelists we have. We have 3 of the best Ghanaian citizens we could find within the circumstance to lead this very important conversation. So that's the second 3. And the 4 is the 4 frames of thematic areas we'll be looking at. The panel discussion will be in 4 rounds. Round 1 will be on national identity and civic heritage. Round 2 on moral and spiritual foundations. Round 3 would look at governance, justice, and leadership. And round 4 will be science, technology, and the future. So essentially, we're breaking this topic down into those modes of reference. To help us think through this very important theme, I'd like to bring up our panel members. We are very privileged to have one of the most exemplary citizens of the country, who really wanted to be here in the flesh, but because of technology is actually here with us before we even came physically. She is a former Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana and a fellow of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, a distinguished fellow of the Institute of Economic Affairs, has an LLB degree from the University of Ghana and an LLM from the Harvard Law School. Called to the Ghana Bar in 1975 and served in both private practice and corporate legal leadership roles before being elevated to the Supreme Court bench 20 years later in 1995. She was one of the pioneering judges of the African Court on Human Rights and People's Rights, serving as vice president between 2008 and 2012. Later as the first female president of the court between 2012 and 2014. She became Ghana's 13th Chief Justice in the year 2017, during which she led significant reforms in judicial administration and strengthened public confidence in the justice system. She's also served on numerous boards, commissions, and continues to contribute to judicial education in the Commonwealth and national development through public service. Our first panel member is Her Ladyship Justice Sophia Akuffo, retired. She is joining us and would like to say good afternoon to your ladyship. Thank you for joining us. If you can say hello so we know you are there in the flesh.
Yes, I'm here and I can hear you. Wonderful. And I hope you can hear me too. Good afternoon. I hear you
loud and clear. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. Our next panelist has for many years served the country in both public and private capacities. He completed Achimota School in 1970, where he left to study economics at the University of Ghana, graduating with a Bachelor of Science. He also has a master's degree in development economics from the prestigious Williams College, Massachusetts, USA. He began his career at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, where he worked at the Industry, Mining and Forestry Division prior to moving to the macroeconomic section of the ministry. He subsequently worked as Chief Commercial Operations at the Ghana Tourism Development Company. In private sector, he founded Ghana Exim Economic Consultants in 1978 and consulted for the World Bank, USAID, and the government of Ghana on several projects. He was also the managing director of EK Osei and Co. and was appointed as High Commissioner of Ghana to the United Kingdom and Ambassador to Ireland in the year 2001. While there, he was elected to the position of Chairperson of the Board of Governors of the Commonwealth Secretariat UK and served for 2 years. His impressive list of accomplishments in the public service include being Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Cocoa Board and the Tema Oil Refinery. He served on many boards, including being board chairman of the Ghana Ports and Harbors Authority from 2021 to 24. He currently serves as the board chairman of Algebra Securities and Algebra Capital, and he's done other public service, too many to mention for such a program. Distinguished guests, the 10th anniversary dialogue is happy to introduce our second panel member, Excellency Ambassador Isaac Osei. Thank you, sir. I'd like to invite you to take your seat. You make a choice, sir. Thank you. I'm struggling to decide which of the backgrounds is nicer, whether her leadership or Ambassador Osei's background, because we have two very good settings for national television. Our third and final panel member is a distinguished Ghanaian executive and thought leader in mining, telecommunications, and media advocacy. He currently serves as the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Mines, where he champions sustainable and responsible mining practices in Ghana's extractive industry. Before this appointment, he held executive leadership roles as the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications and the Digital Chamber of Ghana. His leadership journey reflects a consistent commitment to industry transformation, strategic governance, and institutional development. He's a passionate scholar and lifelong learner. He has a doctorate in business administration, an MBA from the Leicester University, a BSc in electrical and electronic engineering from the KNUST, and has recently added a Master of Arts in IT law to his tall list of academic qualifications. As if that was not enough, he is a certified project management professional and a certified director, holding fellowships of the Ghana Institution of Engineering and the Institute of Directors, as well as the Institute of Management. He is also a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Economists. You should be applauding by now. Beyond boardrooms and technical leadership, Engineer Ashigbe leads civic advocacy, being the convener of the Ghana Coalition Against Illegal Mining, a job he does for no pay but with a lot of gusto and passion. Ladies and gentlemen, our third panelist, Engineer Kenneth Ashigbe. The structure of the program means that at some point I will need your help. So please pay attention to the discussions, make some quality notes, and when we open the floor, please engage with questions or contributions. I'd like to take my seat and once again welcome our viewers on Channel 1 Television, Joy News Television, 97.3 City FM and 99.7 Joy FM, to the beautiful campus of the Heritage Christian University. And as if the heavens have agreed with us, as soon as the president began his speech, the heavens opened with a resounding rain. We thank God for endorsing Heritage at 10. To start off, would like to do a preliminary round where I will pick the reflections of the panel members on our elaborately chosen topic. We have, after a broad consultation, come up with the theme, upholding our heritage won for us, red, gold, and green. Let me start with her ladyship. Since you came in first, what are your opening thoughts around this topic? How seminal is it at this time? And what are your opening reflections on the topic? Your ladyship.
Thank you very much. And once again, good afternoon to everybody who is present there and watching on the air. Our heritage, as we all know, that in Ghana, we don't look at heritage as only what we inherit. Our heritage is what our forefathers did, what they upheld, what they passed on to us. And what is what has been passed on to us is not for us to just purely indulge and consume, but to improve upon and make sure that what we received and what we are ready to hand over to the next generation is even better than what we had before. Because continuous improvement is what quality life is all about. So definitely, this is a very seminal topic, heritage one for us. As has already been said, it was not given, it was won. Something you win is something you fight for, you struggle for, you strive for, you quest for. And it was won for us through blood and toil. And therefore, it's something of value, which we need to continue to value. Now the question is that, do we value? And that is what makes this seminal. When we are dirty, we are we've turned our rivers into gutters. And not only have we turned our rivers into gutters, we are also poisoning ourselves. What for today's benefits. So what is left to pass on to posterity? I will pause here for my colleagues.
Thank you very much indeed. So those are the key words. It was won with the toil and blood of our fathers. Ambassador, what are your opening thoughts around this topic, our heritage won for us, the red, gold, and green?
Yeah, thank you. I think we need to think about what Kwame Nkrumah said on Independence Eve. He said, at long last, the battle has ended, and Ghana, your beloved country, is free forever. Clearly, there was a battle. It was not on a silver plate. And Kwame Nkrumah, I believe, was not just thinking about going through a political process with his CPP as the vanguard. He was probably thinking of somewhere before that. He was thinking of the time that when he himself was Secretary General of the UGCC, which was the first truly political party in our country. But beyond that, this morning we have sung Yenara Yasasini. But I wonder how many of you know that this song, written by Ephraim Amo, was written in 1929. It was initially written in Ewe and subsequently translated into Twi and other languages in the country. But it contains everything that we need for this discussion. He talks also about Mojano and Nananumifieguye, the blood and toil of our forefathers. He talks about character building. You know, he talks about so many things, and I commend that song to every Ghanaian today. But even beyond Amu in 1929, in 1897, the British colonial government had decided that in a lands bill they were going to appropriate the lands of our country, especially the coastal lands. At that time, Ashanti was not part of the Gold Coast, so the coastal lands were going to be taken. But men like John Mensah Saba, Jacob Say, and others rose up against that decision, which was taken by the Legislative Council, and fought. They lost the battle in the Gold Coast at that time, but they went to London and managed to convince the Secretary of State for Colonies, Chamberlain, who later became Prime Minister. And that decision of the Legislative Assembly was not passed into law. So you can see that over the history, we have been fighting. You know, we have been fighting all this time. On the day Nkrumah made that statement, which I referred to, as he made the statement, you could see that the Union Jack that is the flag of the United Kingdom, was lowered, and the red, gold, and green, which we referred to, was raised. In the first national anthem that we had, well, the national anthem was written by Philip Beho, but Papa Thompson wrote the first words. That national anthem in 1957, it was called Lift High the Flag of Ghana. And in there somewhere, it says, red for the blood of the heroes in the fight, green for the precious farms of our birthright, and linked with these is the shining golden band that marks the richness of our fatherland. I think, having given this background, I'll stop here, and I'm quite sure Ken has other points to make.
Amazing stuff. Thank you very much, Ambassador. So, wow, yes. A history lesson in 3 minutes. Engineer, what do you have to say about the relevance and timeliness of this topic, our heritage one for us, red, gold, and green?
Thank you very much, Bernard. And again, I am in such a great company, and thank you for having me. But I think I will not start this by also recognizing the quality of the campus that we have here. I am happy. I was telling the president that this one, if you come here, it cannot be even be from here. This one, because with all of this is also the fact that there's Christianity attached to it. So thank you very much for the founders of this. So my seniors have laid the foundation so far as the heritage is concerned, and what it is that has been won for us through the blood and toil of our fathers and our mothers. In all of this, there were some great women who also played roles in the past. And as you come into even into independence, you continue to see the fights that fought. And so it is important that at this stage we are looking at that heritage that has been won for us and what we need to do going forward. Because unfortunately, we're beginning to forget that some people have done some fight for us, and we need to continue the fight. And so for us, everything is now beginning to be as if it's only about us. It's as if we're the only generation that would live and would die and go. If you look at the way we handle everything that we have, the fact that now we don't seem to want to live for tomorrow, and everything is about today. We have all the technologies around us that is doing the instant things. But again, fortunately for us, you're seeing the Gen Zs beginning to also want to start holding on to some things that we should do. So for our generation and those before us, we need to start asking ourselves, the things that have been given to us, how are we going to preserve them for the children of tomorrow? The values upon which this country was built, what are we also going to be living? And so that's why for me, I think it's important that as we celebrate a decade of this university, we're even beginning to live our name, the heritage, and ask the questions to say, what heritage is the next 10 years going to be? What are we also going to live to make sure that some would come and sit and discuss this? So I'm happy that we're having this conversation, and I'm hoping that out of this, all of us are going to leave here and say, I'm going to do one thing to also ensure that we would also have toiled and fought for the generation to come.
Thank you very much for linking the topic to the university in round one. Please put your hands together for Engineer Kenashibe one more time. If you just tuned in, this is the 10th anniversary public dialogue of the Heritage Christian University, proudly located at the Heritage Campus behind the Olympic Stadium in Amasaman, here in Accra, Ghana. We are on the theme upholding our heritage one for us, red, gold, and green. We're privileged to have your leadership, Justice Sophia Kufu, former CJ of the Republic of Ghana, Ambassador Isaac Osei, former High Commissioner to UK, and former ambassador to Ireland, and Engineer Ken Ashigbe as our panel members. My name is Bernard Avle. If you're listening on radio or watching on television, feel free to contribute on the number that will be put on the screen you're watching, or the social media platform that will be advertised on the screen. Since Engineer Ashigbe introduced the word values, I'm going to her ladyship for her to give us some quick thoughts on how our founding values have evolved over the years and what must be recovered in terms of values. Your ladyship, take it up.
Thank you very much. In fact, it's a question of whether the values upon which the nation was founded, whether those values have evolved or rather have devolved. So that, and it is my view that unfortunately those values have devolved. I cannot even list in this period the full spectrum of the values that motivated the founding parents of this nation, because they're just too many. But they would include patriotism. They would include selflessness. They will include integrity. They will include commitment to the common good, whereby it's not a question of, is this good for me, but will this serve the greater good of the nation? That was the consideration. Human rights, that was one of the values. Rule of law, that was one of the values, which meant that if A is B, if A equals B, it will apply to Mr. X in the same way as it will apply to Mr. Y. The law did not change, and the application of the law would not change from face to face or from person to person, but everyone will be equal before the law, and everyone will have equal access to the law, whether you know somebody or you don't know anybody. The other values would include Pan-Africanism. It would include nationalism. It will include good character. Good character. You know, we've reached a point in this nation where character, you have to try and define character before some people, especially the younger people, will know what you're talking about. Whereas really, character is one of those intangible qualities and values that will enable somebody, without even being told, to know that this is right and this is not right. It would include mutual respect. Respect not because it is worth anything to you to respect another person, but simply because it is the right thing to do. It will include quality tradition which is such that it evolves. It does not turn into ethnicity. It does not turn into divisiveness, but it encourages and fosters unity. And unity per se is one of the values that brought birth to this nation. Ghana is and has always been a unitary state. And yet, what do we see now? This one is from here, that one is from here. don't give this job to this person, it's from this party, it's from that party. Partisanship, divisiveness, exclusivity as against inclusivity has become the order of the day. Everyone is suspicious of the other person, and we have become so insular, and everyone is thinking about that. These days, it's not even people thinking about tribe. People are thinking family. People are thinking village. People are thinking smaller and smaller and smaller. What will happen to Ghana if we are going to divide ourselves into insular parts? No, that was not the Ghana that was envisaged by, as far back as the abolitionists, the group, the Aborigines group, who were prepared to fight for this nation and for the people of this nation, even against the intentions of the colonial powers right at the beginning of colonization. They all had a certain country in view, a certain milieu, a certain ethical concept in view, not what we have now. And then we also, the value was also self-reliance. We were to be self-reliant. Independence meant self-reliance. Now, what do we see? All we see is dependency syndrome. Somebody has called it.
You've given us a very exhaustive list that can be the theme of another lecture. Indeed, the list you've given, we can have 10 lectures from those values: patriotism, selflessness, integrity, and the rest of it, human rights and rule of law, Pan-Africanism, nationalism, good character, mutual respect, a lot. And you're concerned about partisanship, division, and all of those. Let me come in here to speak to Ambassador. Taking up so thank you for that. From the values conversation, let's come to the whole discussion around national identity. So if I'm to press you, you are High Commissioner to the UK and Ireland. So if somebody presses you, say, what defines a Ghanaian? All right. If somebody did something and they describe the person's behavior as High Commissioner, are you able to say, based on this person's behavior, I can tell he's a Ghanaian? Was there anything like that? Your mic.
Let me put it this way. I think that our own traditions teach us respect. Respect for others, especially those who are our seniors or much older than us. Our traditions also teach us about our communities, that we are together as a community of people. And it teaches us to account for what we do and to be responsible, for the consequences of our actions. And I think it is very, very important. Yes, when I was in London, Ghanaians usually got together as the Ghanaian community. Some of us sometimes find it strange that ethnocentrism should rear its head in a country like Ghana, because in reality, what the heritage which our founding fathers passed on to us was that of a multilingual, multi-ethnic society.
Exactly.
So sometimes you find people, for political or other reasons, fan the fires of hatred on the basis of one's tribe or on the basis of one's political party. That for me is disturbing. And I think that the earlier we understand this, the better. Not only that. You see, apart from the things we've talked about, and Sophia has also indicated, I think these modern days, our emphasis has been on rights. Our emphasis has been on innovation. I'm quite sure, Ken, that is an area where you will talk about. But the truth of the matter is that when you talk about rights, you must understand that these rights go with responsibilities. When you talk about an innovation or technology, you must understand that technology or innovation must go with proper regulation. You know, it is when innovation or modern ideas intersect with our traditional values that Ghana will find its real place in the Committee of Nations.
Ken, you are in the what can you add to the values identity conversation from the context of the work you do in the public space? You advocate for good environmentalism, you advocate for good practices in the telecoms and the mining sector. When you look at the reality of what happens on the ground and you compare what you see to the many values her ladyship espoused and the succinct points His Excellency makes, what is missing? What do you find?
So again, so let me just situate it within all the points that my dad and I was telling Ambassador that when he finished university, that was when I was born in 1970. You know.
Oh really?
So when
you
don't do that.
Oh wow.
You don't start that one. When me I'm son, then you are grandson. But just to borrow from that, and you just using some of the experiences I've had, Bernard would know, you know, it was Bernard and Co that started the media coalition against Galamsey.
Yeah.
In 2016, you know, when the NDC was in power, that's in the towards the last quarter, that's when they started it, and then it caught on fire. And then the media sat around and we decided that this is one thing we're going to advocate for. As Bernard mentioned, the issue of advocacy so far as our very survival and existence is concerned is not anything you are paid for. The question you would ask is that if I left Graphic as managing director in 2017, how come I still am convener for the media coalition? The challenge you have is that volunteerism, sacrifice is lost. Now we want to be paid for everything we do.
Yep.
So who is going to do these things that cost us, that would cost you personally, would cost you so many things? People don't want to do it, and so sacrifice is completely lost. When we were growing up, your car breaks down, you get people to come and push it for you, and then when the car goes, they would wave at you. Now you let that happen. By the time they come standing at your car, they have taken some things out of your car, and then one of them is standing ahead of you. When the car starts, they'll ask you, "Nasikanwe." They might not even wait. They will ask you, "How much are you going to pay us?" So the issue about who is going to sacrifice for this country is one of the challenges we face. So that for even us as a country, some of the decisions that we need to take that would enable us to be able to develop, to be able to grow some industry, which would mean some sacrifices. What you will find, again, the NDC and the MPP, I don't know why we sometimes look at what is happening in Parliament. All that has happened is the actors that have changed. The things that currently the NDC are saying, the MPP said it not too long ago when Jachi Kwesin had his issues. And what the MPP are saying today is something they said when Jachi Kwesin had his issues. So because of that, and because of our whole issue of not wanting to sacrifice, is so ingrained in this 4-year cycle that we have. Policies that will be taken that would require us to actually sacrifice and see through things that are going up, we don't do it. You go into the issues around even mining and all of that. Are we going to be prepared as a people to say, you know what, let's invest some of our resources as a country, the monies that we've made from oil and gas, into exploration, So when we talk about wanting to own the mind, it does not start from after somebody has explored. It starts from investing. But you be a politician and want to do that, you will find out the opposition will tell you, they'll start clamoring and getting the people to come against you. So the issue about sacrificing so that there will be a better tomorrow is a major value that is lost, that we need. And again, as the university, we need to start training our people to do that. The issues around volunteerism. How are we going to train the next generation to be able to volunteer?
Yes.
Why is it that when it comes to internship, even internship, we want to go and do internship they even want to be paid for internship. Around us in Amasaman here, there are a lot of SMEs that are coming up. Are we able to train our young ones in service-led internship, that they would go and be able to work with some of these people to be able to build it, not for money, but for the things that they will learn and for the ideas that they will come up with and with the solutions that they will come up with. So the issues around volunteerism, the issues around internship and apprenticeship. Another major issue that is lost on us, the values that in the past we used to hold dear to, is the issues around apprenticeship. Learning under the feet of those who have done it. It's completely lost. What they want to do, even when they come as apprentices, they're asking them how much you're going to pay them. If you don't pay them quickly, they will go and take the Okada and then they will go and ride it. They don't want to come and sit and be able to learn. And so these are values that are lost, that unfortunately you and I also sitting in this room as parents were losing that. The ability to let our children, we are cocooning our children so much, overly protecting our children. I hope none of you in this room, when we talk about integrity and you're talking about it, you are not the people walking and knowing that your children do not qualify for Heritage University and you are going to coming and to see somebody to get them places in places they don't qualify. The worst bit is that even those who are going to write BEC, we as parents go and pay to get examination papers for them. Where is the integrity that you're talking about as values that are being lost? We ourselves, what roles are we playing in eroding these values upon which this country has been built?
Wonderful. Round of applause for the panel. Now, don't forget, 10 years of Heritage Christian University, 3 panel members, 3 frames of reference, 4 thematic areas. We're ending the first thematic area not with a question, because all of you have raised very important questions, but there's a solution, and we are sitting in the solution. It's called faith-based institution. So my question to end round 1 and to segue into round 2, and for this round I'll start with Ambassador, because you are the only one who didn't go to a mission school. Her leadership went to Wesley Girls Methodist, Kenasigo went to St. Augustine's Catholic, I went to Presbyterian Boys Presec, you went to Motown. So that's the misfortune you had on this panel. So I'm going to start with you. How can faith-based institutions like Heritage Christian University help address the issues you've raised, instilling civic virtue in our students? So I'll start with Ambassador Isaac Osei. Please take the mic.
Thank you, Bernard. I think that faith-based universities such as this university occupy a very special place, because in this space, this really is where knowledge must meet morality. We do understand that prior to coming to this university, many of the students here would already have been formed through their families, through the secondary schools that they attend, and that in essence the universities like this should really be the finishing school which prepares you to go out into the world of work. That is really what it should be. Clearly, beyond teaching, they must also help us to shape our conscience. Students, I believe, should leave this university and others like this not only with their degrees, but with the conviction to act justly, to lead with integrity, to serve others. In my view, this is how we sustain our civic virtues and the soul of our nation.
definitely a role for faith-based learning, even in 2025.
It is important because that is where you find the confluence of morality and education.
Oh, I thought you'd be
Knowledge.
applauding. Can you repeat that? That is where you find the confluence
Of knowledge
and morality.
and morality.
Amazing. Now, let me come to Engineer Ashigbe on this. What are your thoughts on the importance of faith-based institutions like this? Yourself being a devout Catholic.
Yes, Bernard, it is so critical. It is said that if you have a smart and learned person without integrity and without character, you are in trouble. So it is important that for Heritage Christian University, the issues of forming the heart and forming the mind are put together, and the nexus, again, because it's a Christian university, you have that nexus put right in Christ, and that has to be done. And not only, and again, going back to the Bible, is not to live like the Sadducees, but to live it like Christ, where if we're going to expect our students to be formed properly, then it means that the faculty itself would have to walk that particular talk. So it has to be modeled by the culture that exists, that permeates within the university, so that we let the students know that that is modeled, to the extent that the students would rather want to fail than to copy, to the extent that the students would also learn that it is right to be able to share. The issues around service has to be taught within the university, and it ought to be one of the things that we put premium onto, so that at the time when you are grading and you are assessing the students, not only are you looking at the head and the things that have been done, but what is it that is in the heart? What are the sacrifices that have been made? The issues that we think that are lost, the values that are lost in us, how do we bring them in? And it's also very important that even as a Christian university, we should look at some of the traditions that we've had. One of the challenges that we face that is eroding a lot of our values is the tabula rasa. When we thought that because Christianity has come, then it means everything cultural that is Ghanaian, that is traditional to us, is wrong. And I say to people when I go to the cemetery, when I go to funerals, that when you put a wreath there, you think it is right for you as a Christian to do. Then when my grandmother Dukwavi in Chame put a bowl of food there because somebody is dead, don't start complaining. Does the dead come and look at the flowers? If they come and smell the flowers, then you can tell me that when they come to eat the food. So we need to find the things within our culture and our traditions that, you see, at the heart of Christianity is love for Christ, and loving Christ as Christ, loving your neighbor as Christ loved us. That's the essence of Christianity. And go back again into our tradition and see what are some of those things that we can hold dear. When we talk about the issues around environmental sustainability and all of that, why do you think that our people, our forebears, will tell you that the groove, and you find out that the grooves, the sacred grooves that you will find, are the sources of our water bodies. They will tell you that you go into those places, you don't go and cut any trees in those places. Go to my village in Chame, for example. There's a Christian dome that is now building within some of those sacred places that are the water sources. That cannot be Christ-like. What do you think that our people will say that on Tuesdays we don't go to the farm? We need to go back again into some of those things that are the real us, and find ways in which we can use science to be able to explain that, and use our modern context to let our people go back into those things and hold those things there. So as we teach our people what is in today's context and all of that, let's not forget where we have come from, especially those things that have modeled us.
Wow.
Definitely you don't want to do trokosi. Yes, you don't want to do that, but there are some of the things that have been positive, that have shaped our future, that has led us in some particular ways to be able to produce the two elder statespersons that we have today.
Yeah.
How do we find that and make sure that our
Wow.
young ones would also do that?
Thank you very much, Ken. So your leadership is the same preamble, faith-based institutions. Looking at your own background from Wesley Girls, what are your thoughts?
I think, first of all, I agree with everything that my co-panelists have said before, and it goes without saying. For somebody like me, I went to Presbyterian primary schools, Presbyterian middle schools. I happened to also go to a school in the UK, but I was there because my father was the chaplain to Ghanaian students. So I came from Asofufie, and then I went to Wesley Girls. And so for me, I was always within the faith-based waters, if I can put it that way. And it's very important. It's very important in the upbringing of every person, that every human being must be nurtured from their childhood through the rest of their lives in a certain ethos where there are faith-based values, where you are looking to someone bigger than yourself. That is very, very important. And that is what is very important about faith-based institutions. And I wish our faith-based institutions would be more vocal, would be more active, would be more critical, instead of sometimes taking a back seat and just looking on and hemming and hawing. Jesus was an activist, was he not? What was not going well in his society, in his community, he spoke about it and he worked about it. He took action about those things. It's very, very important. And really that's all I want to say about it, because the question is, it's like asking an Eskimo to talk about how cold it is in Greenland. It's cold, and that's all we've got to say about it.
So you've been you've been an activist, former CJ, in the sense that I remember in the last few months of the previous year, you picketed with pensioner bondholders in the rain to demand for their payments to be made for them. You have advocated for natural resources in Ghana to be managed for Ghanaians. In fact, yesterday the IEA held another press conference, and I'm sure if you were not out of the country, you would have been there. Some would say you've lived your life, you have attained possibly the zenith in the legal profession. But from the previous answer, it seems to me as if you see activism as Christ-likeness, which is why you don't want to rest. And that even today, you've won Duku and come to sit here and you are still talking. So, yeah. So, just I want you to emphasize that point for me.
It's a call to duty.
Yes.
And so you receive the call and you move. It's very important. And I would like to say a little bit more about volunteerism.
Yeah.
It's so important. When I was young, for me, the best part of my long back, especially when I was in sixth form, was to go to Volu camps. And in fact, you paid to attend Volu. You paid to go and volunteer. Your transportation, you pay. I think when you arrive, they'll give you some small so-called compensation, which will not cover your fees, your fare. But the sheer joy of joining your age group your compeers and working towards something. And I was always in a building. I would attend building camps. So you see the wall going up, or the classroom that you're building going up, and it was good. And when you look back, up to now, every time I'm driving, I'm entering Akropong, and I look to the left, and I see the School for the Blind. I also see the School for the Blind library, which we helped to build. And it's a metaphor. It is an actual thing you do, but it's also a metaphor. Volunteering is important.
Right.
Now, as my colleague has said, if somebody helps you push your car, or even before they come to offer to push your car, they'll ask you, if I push it for you, how much will you give me? Is it come to this? Ghana was not like this. We need, if we want to begin the transformation of the nation, we should be also looking very closely at the young people and be inculcating values of volunteerism, of internship,
All right.
of doing it because it is the right thing to do. We need to do that. The youth is very important.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think when Sophia was speaking, she said VOLU. Many people may not know what VOLU is, but it was the Voluntary Work Camps Association of Ghana. There was an association, probably still is there, which used to advertise about these camps all over the country. And in those days, many of us in secondary schools joined just to do something useful. And most of the camps were in the rural areas. So the question of going to the rural areas, if you are sent there after university, should not have been something difficult for others. But I came in because I wanted to correct something which you, as well as Ken, said. I know I'm not young. Being in your 70s means you are not young. You said I finished Legon in 1970. I did not. I entered Legon in 1970 and left in 1970.
But 73 is still.
Yeah, I know you were 3 years old and
I wasn't even born.
he wasn't born. But that's the beauty of this country. You see, when you talk about a generation, people always think about maybe their fathers or grandfathers' generation, but the generation melts, into the next generation.
Yes.
Some of us are already in the exit lounge, or almost there. But there are many others we work with today who are now coming up, and who are the ones we will hand over to enable them to enhance the legacy that we have, nurture it and pass it on to succeeding generations.
Thank you very much. This is still the Heritage Christian Anniversary, 10th anniversary public dialogue on the theme Upholding Our Heritage, One for Us, the red, gold, and green. We are gathered here before a distinguished audience of professors, lecturers, students, and alumni. Please put your hands together for yourselves. This program is live on Truth Television, which is owned by the university, live on Channel 1 Television, where I work, Joy News Television, where Ken used to work, also live on City FM and Joy FM. I don't want to belabor the round 2 on moral and spiritual foundations, because I think the point has been made quite clearly that there definitely is a role for Christian education in national development and in forming the moral fabric of society. But to end the round, I like
just let me make a correction.
Yeah.
I think it's important to continue to use the expression faith-based institutions.
All right, fair enough.
Which will
Fair enough.
cover everybody.
So to end the round, I want to ask about the role of the family, because there's one role for a university in instilling values, but I think when we talk about moral and spiritual foundations, which is the focus of this round, I'd like to invite the panel to reflect on the role of family in shaping character and nationalism and patriotism, because it does appear as though the family is under strain because of the modern demands of work, traffic, technology, and the rest of them. So maybe I'll start with Ken. How critical is family in shaping the moral and spiritual foundations of a nation?
Again. So if you want to destroy a civilization, where you start from is the family. That is the core. Again, so because we sit in a Christian university, I would use Christian examples. So you find out that when the Great Commission was given, we're told to go out into the world and make disciples of the world, starting from Jerusalem to Judea to the end of the world. For all of us, our Jerusalem is our family. That is where it starts from. So when again we say charity begins at home, that's literally what it means. We need to model what we want, the character we want our children to go out for. So when you have a country where you have third generation single parents, and then you have the great grandmother living on the street, the grandmother is living on the street, the mother is living on the street, and the child who is 13 is also giving birth and living on the street, then you are in trouble.
Yes.
So as a people, we need to start looking at that. Those slums that we're building, those families that we're building, where we're not giving the opportunity of the family to actually be able to build the children, because they're not even growing up before they're bringing up the children. That is a problem. But beyond that, we ourselves as parents, what is it that we're teaching our children? That's why the example I was giving of the parent who would then go and get exam papers for the children. At that particular point, what are you teaching the child? So you are teaching the child that it is okay for you to be able to cut the corners. We don't want our children to do the difficulties. So the family is really at the epoch of developing our civilization that we want to build, the heritage that we need to live. It has to start with the family. And again, it has to start with the family modeling what exactly it is that we want to do. Even the children that you give birth to today, as early as they are not learning what it is that you are saying. They are actually looking at what it is that you were doing. And so we need to start again looking back and say, what is it that I am doing so far as my family is concerned? What is it that I am teaching my children and modeling for them to be able to do? So I think it's so important. How long in school for us to want to push that to school and to want to push that to society? So it's for you and I to realize the fact that we need to make sure that we are modeling that and we're teaching our children so properly. It is the way, if we want to make sure that some of the values that Her Ladyship and Ambassador has talking about that are eroded, we need to start doing that back in our families. The issues about our sense of time, the fact that you as a parent yourself, you would be on time, the fact that you want to make sure that even when you cannot be seen, when you're at home alone with your children, you are doing the right thing. The kids are driving in the vehicle with you, and then you will jump a red light, or somebody will do something and you would obscene words will come. What do you think your children are going to be able to come out and be able to do? So we need to do that as parents. Your child goes to school and there's a reprimand by the teacher, and then you go out all angry, coming to attack the children, the teachers. What exactly do you think that we're building so far as the our future and our heritage?
Let's take more thoughts. Yeah, let's take more thoughts on the role of the family. Ambassador, before I come to your leadership. Family.
Yeah, I think the family it's really the basic unit of our society. In the family, children are taught what is right and what is wrong. And where they are wrong, they are usually punished so that they don't repeat the same thing. So the family also can be described as the first school of citizenship. You are even schooled in love of country. Why you should, think of this space that we have as Ghana, and that Ghana is within you. I think it's very, very important. It is also in the family, apart from the discipline for those who go wrong, that you are also taught empathy, feelings for those who are less fortunate than yourself. I think it's very, very, very important. And so before our nation can expect its citizens or its children to show patriotism, they will show it if they have been taught in their family to respect others, to think of others as their fellows. But I think that what a stable family really gives a child is that it provides a moral anchor all the time. You know that when you do something wrong and you go out there, or you go out there and do something wrong, you are in trouble. You yourself will judge yourself before you come home. When we were young, I remember walking to school with two of my friends who have also done well for themselves. One is the one who founded P-Wood, Eduarda, and then the other is Maxwell Kofi Juma. We were just passing by the home of a well-known Kumasi person, Mr. J. Opoku, and we saw some delicious mangoes. We thought those mangoes would be delicious. So two of us climbed up and started plucking some. Unfortunately, I was the one who was caught by the gate man. And then meanwhile, Mr. Opoku was standing upstairs just looking at us at him room. And then he called the other two to come. When we got there, he asked, "Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from Ashanti Newtown." He said, "What's your house number?" And house numbering in the 50s, all the houses in Kumasi had numbers. Mine was KO 112. Oh yes. So I said, "I'm from KO 112. Then he asked P-Wood. He said, "So I'm also from KO 112. Then he asked, "Are you Mrs. Nkumsa's grandson?" And I said, "Yes." Then he said, "You are Chief Atakwesi's son?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Look, this house is your house. Anytime you want to pluck bangos, just come in and don't climb the walls again. But this time I'm not going to tell your parents about it. But next time you do that, you'll be in trouble." You see, so already by the time we got home that day, in fact, the mangoes were no longer sweet. And it is that sort of thing that you are taught. When I was member of parliament for Subin in Kumasi, many of the people who finished universities and wanted jobs came to me and asked whether I could help. And I said, "Let me look at your CV. If it's not good enough, I will tell you that it's not good enough. And I cannot take it to a friend or somebody I knew, and I cannot force anybody else to employ you. My own children, when they finish universities, I did not look for jobs for them. I asked them to go out there. The market is there. Go." And And fortunately, all of them found their own spaces. What is happening now in this country, which is very sad, is that a lot of people do not look at merit and ability, hard work as the route to success. People think that you have to have connections. People think that you have to have something they now call protocol before you can get into some job or the other. That bothers me a lot. And I think it should bother all of us.
It definitely should. Thank you. A round of applause for him. So let me give the last word on the round 2 to Her Ladyship on the role of family in shaping character, patriotism and nationalism. Any thoughts on that, Your Ladyship?
Thank you. Yes. If the family is not reflecting or inculcating or practicing good character, it's not inculcating good character into the children. If the family is not, it's one of those families where there's always violence in language, violence in attitude, violence in response, violence in everything. What do you expect the products of that family to do? It goes without saying, because as Isaac said, that's the school, that's the first school, that's the nursery school. The family unit is the nursery school of every person. That's where you learn. If your parents are doing it, what's wrong with it? If your guardian is doing it, it cannot possibly be wrong. If in the family, in the home, dirty words are used without any consequences, well, of course, it's okay at home. So it has to be okay outside as well. And so, if we as parents do not ensure that within the family circle we are doing everything possible to inculcate high standards, high values, principle of hard work, selflessness, all these values, if we are not inculcating them in our children, when they go out of the house, where are they going to get that from? They don't even have it at home, therefore they don't even value it. When they go to school and they are being asked to sweep, then they start crying because that's not what they are supposed to do. They don't do that at home. If they have to weed, no, that's not what they are supposed to do. So it's very important going forward that we as a nation do everything we possibly can to make sure that that the younger people, the family unit, one, is preserved, and everything that is necessary to enable the family to nurture quality people within that family, that is done. That is why in many nations, whether they are socialist, whether they are communist, still they make sure that there are certain contributions that flow from the state into the family unit. That is important.
Wonderful.
It is not to be considered freebie. No, it's supposed to help to build a strong nation. I don't really have much to add to what my colleagues have said, just to draw attention to the fact that conviction, character, creativity, compassion, and community, these values of the Heritage University are the values that families help to build that. And it's very important that as a nation, this ethos, an ethos should be built around such values, starting from
Thank you.
the family level. Thank you.
I'm staying with you. I'm staying with you as we come to the third segment. We're closing soon. You can see I'm merging a lot of questions. We're not talking about governance, leadership, and justice. And I'd like your ladyship to talk about how to uphold justice and the rule of law in an increasingly impatient society. In an increasingly impatient society where even now children can't watch a 1 hour movie, they are watching shorts. When I'm playing a song in my car and the song is more than 5 minutes, they say it's too long. They want 2 minute song. So the whole society is in a hurry, and you people say the wheels of justice grind slowly. So I want you to talk to us a bit about upholding justice, good governance, and all these nice things in this our modern microwave fast food generation.
Okay, that's a tall order. But what I can say is that this can be done it will have to be from a multifaceted approach. Firstly, it is important that the judiciary also becomes a teacher. The judiciary needs to reach out to the public to give out simplified information and education on even something like the judicial process, because people expect that I have filed my writ within the 14 days, something should happen within these days, something should happen, and so on and so forth. If they knew what the timelines are, if they knew how these timelines are managed, if they knew a bit more about some of the ways judges do their work, case management, and so on and so forth, maybe they'll be more patient and know that you cannot expect that your case is going to start and finish in a matter of 2 months. That's one thing. The other method of so in other words, it's important to train the expectations, the just expectations of the public. If you know what to expect, then you're not going to be disappointed. At the same time, it is also important that the judiciary, in the rendering of its service, finds constantly reviews its methodology and the processes and procedures, and it's something that's been going on as part of judicial reforms over the years. But it is important that it should be a continuing matter, because after all, improvement is a continuous thing if you want to assure quality outcomes. And that is why even how filing of cases electronically and so on and so forth are all systems that need to be pursued and encouraged and enhanced and spread across the nation. I was happy to note that the new Chief Justice, when he was being vetted, spoke at length about how he intends to optimize the use of IT to improve the delivery of justice. It's very important. Across the world, there are so many methods that have, over the past 10 to 15 years, been tried and tested and proven that one can easily take on board. It takes money. Nothing good comes cheap, and so that should be expected. But therefore, in conclusion, what am I saying? What I'm saying is that we need to have a scientific and a quality focused approach when it comes to judicial administration, when it comes to delivery of justice, and when it comes to governance. When it comes to governance, every aspect of governance cannot do without a quality focus. Otherwise, things will still remain the same. People will do things according to whims and caprices, and the public will keep thinking that they are being shortchanged, things are taking too long, and when people think things are taking too long, then they begin to think it's justifiable to lubricate the process, and this will then continue into the corruption that has engulfed the nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I'd like to bring in Ambassador. For everything around this, the big question for you is, how does ethical leadership look like in a politically polarized environment like Ghana? Your reflections, your experiences. How do we model ethical leadership in the public space?
But before that, I'd just like to say that I agree with practically all that has been said by so far. However, I think there's an increasing perception in our country that often we see the political weaponization of legal process, where some people are let off and others are punished for similar offenses. I think that breeds a certain level of cynicism, in the country, and that is something which I believe is worrying. The other point that I want to make with respect to what Sophia said is that cynicism also raises its head, especially when people feel that they are denied justice, or that justice is delayed for too long. Maybe we don't, many of us don't understand legal or judicial processes properly. But I think that the legal system still remains the moral compass for the society. I think it's important that we use the law to resolve issues. And when the laws are applied fairly, then citizens will learn that fairness is at the root, of what is done through the legal process. Now, back to your question.
Ethical leadership.
Yes.
What does it look like in a society like ours? How do we model it?
Well, ethical leadership, it requires courage. That's the first thing. Courage to do what is right. It requires courage of your conviction. Some of us find it difficult to do what is right simply because it is unpopular, and that can happen especially in the divided environment that we have. I think that ethical leadership has to be guided by principle rather than partisanship. It's clearly the way to go for Ghana. And ethical leadership should also seek the common good. The common good, and should not be for personal gain. Far too often in the political space, the general perception that we have in this country is that once you have a position, then you have a route 9 to acquire what is not legally yours, either through exacting illegal rents, or doing all kinds of deals. So if Ghana has to progress, then we have to have leaders who understand the basic things which drive our society. I think it's very, very important. And also because many leaders only look at what is happening in the country on the basis of the next election cycle. So in the 4 years that someone is in power, all they are doing is preparing for the next one. As a result, they make mistakes and they cannot plan for the development of our country. So that is really what I think is happening.
Thank you. Ken, how do you use activism and the right legal means to fight an unjust system? I'll give you a good example. In your fight against Galamsey, a lot of times the courts become the problem, where the media has exposed the wrongdoer, the local people are angry with the people who have offended, the matter gets to the police, the person that gets a slap on the wrist, or the cases take forever. How do you, in the national interest, tackle or confront such a thing when the compass of the nation, the law, is now being used to stifle the truth? What do you do?
Thank you, Bernard. Even so, to look at that again, so when leadership talks about, the justice system, and Ambassador also talk about weaponizing it again, it is important for the judiciary and everybody within the chain to know that the times where it was different, it was difficult to really compare what has happened to A and B and see whether there's fairness and equity is going. In today's age of big data and AI, if I slap all the judgments that have gone on in various courts into an AI and start looking at patterns, some of the weaponization that Ambassador is talking about will become very glaring. And so now there's technology that's enabling us that, yes, we are told that justice resides in the bosom of the judge, but now we'll start seeing the bosom of the judges and see how they are colored, whether they are red and blue or they are green. And it will be very clear you have empirical data to be able to do that, because when you do that analysis, it will become clear. So it is important that a lot of our young people today will start looking at some of the things that we're doing and start complaining about it. Coming out to the question you ask, there is a pattern that has developed. You remember when we were fighting Galamsey, and I was telling Ambassador when Operation Vanguard started, there were a lot of arrests that were made. We saw even the president at some point come to complain about less than 10%. Are you surprised that today, now Operation Vanguard is NIMOS? NIMOS is doing a lot of arrests. Tell me, all of you, have you heard of any of the arrests that have been made and what prosecutions have happened? We still even have the situation of Akontamai that happened long ago, still going on. And so it is important that for all of us, we need to start speaking up. We are too comfortable in our corners and thinking that this thing is far away from us, but it's not. It is going very close to us, beyond the issues around the health. The fact that the people in Kwenyako have not done any Galamsey. Currently they don't have water to drink. There's a family of mine, I was telling that story to Ambassador, who lost their brother-in-law in Takwa. Brother-in-law was a Muslim, so was buried. But they decided that those who were left, let's go and test them. The level of mercury in their blood, because the people are bringing the amalgam from the bush into the town and burning them in the town, and then when this rain comes back, the acid rain will come down. And so these people have had to leave their house because no regulator has been able to tell the people to stop. So it is close to you. Another challenge is that go around a lot of our borders. Most of the people who are controlling the Galamsey are foreign mercenaries and insurgents who are in the corner. So this thing is about us. It is not about our today. And it's not about just those people who are in the pit. They themselves, they are victims. So for us, where we sit at the Ghana Chamber of Mines, one of the things we want to do is how do we support government in coming up with model artisanal mines in such a way that those who want to make a living are able to do that. The challenge we have is the organized criminals. Those people who are able to bring 200 excavators into this country. Those people who are able to go and bring the Chinese into this country. The politically exposed persons. The very influential people who can afford this. But so if you are in academia and you are keeping quiet, if you are in the churches and you are keeping quiet, if you are on the bench and they bring the cases to you and you throw them about, Bear in mind, the food you eat, you don't know where it's coming from. The water you drink, you don't know where it's coming from. So we all need to start speaking up. It does not matter whether it's NDC or MPP. Let me tell you the sad truth. Now the NDC, the criminals who associated themselves, the environmental criminals who associated themselves to the MPP, and the current criminals who have associated themselves to the NDC, there's a merger. They have merged together and they are now doing what they think that they are doing. So we all need to come together, and if this government is doing something right, let's support it to do what is doing that is right. If they are not doing the things that are right, let's also say them. One of the thesis I'm beginning to postulate, that I've been asking the lawyers yesterday, the time has come for us to start confiscating every land that has been given for Galamsey. Confiscate that, reclaim that, restore that, and give it to the state. Take it away from the chiefs, because that chief, either he was complicit in the Galamsey or is incompetent to be able to police the lands that have been given to him. So the solutions to all of this, the activism that Bernard asks about, is what you and I are going to do. This is only about Galamsey. What about corruption? Are you also sitting there and asking some politicians things that you know that he himself cannot afford? Then you also are perpetuating that. So the question should be, what can you and I do to be able to change it? And also, don't believe the hype when they tell you that the situation is so bad, nothing is going to change. That is what they want us to believe. Bear in mind that in any reaction, the reagents are plentiful, but the catalysts are few. So you and I can begin to become the light that would bring the change into this country. There's hope for this country, but the hope resides in you and I deciding that we will do the right thing, no matter the price we are going to pay, that we will sacrifice so that the heritage for tomorrow, we also can build it.
Amazing. A very scientific answer, that even though the reagents are many, the catalyst triggers the action, and so we must be catalysts to catalyze change. I want to remind our listeners that we are live on 97.3 CDFM. You're listening to the Heritage Christian University 10th anniversary public dialogue happening here at the Boateng Auditorium on the very beautiful campus behind the Olympic Stadium in Amasaman. Please put your hands together for yourselves. We're looking at the theme, upholding our heritage, one for us, red, gold and green. We're also live on Channel 1 Television, Joy News and Joy FM. My panel includes the Ladyship Justice Sophia Akufu, former CJ of the Republic of Ghana, Excellency Isaac Osei, former High Commissioner to the UK, Engineer Kenna Shigbe, who is the Chief Executive of the Chamber of Mines. I have a last question for the panelists, and that question basically is top 3 things we should prioritize as citizens, as academics, as whatever, because the most important thing to know after a big conversation is what to do next. So I'd like to invite my panel. What are the 3 most important things Ghanaian citizens should do if we are to preserve the heritage we've received and pass it on to the next generation in a better form? Let me repeat the question. What are the top 3 priorities we sitting in this room, those listening to us on radio and watching us on television, what are the top 3 priorities for action to preserve the heritage and pass on a positive legacy? Who wants to go first?
Okay, perhaps I will not answer it the way you want me to answer.
You will set your own question and answer.
Yes, but I just wanted to make a point because Ken talked about Galamsey. Yesterday, a friend gave me a pamphlet which covered the 2023 alumni lecture at Legon. It was given by Tony Otin-Jesse, and in that lecture, Tony Otin-Jesse talked about both Galamsey and then about our forests and the forest business, let's put it this way. He indicated that barely a few years ago, 50% of our country had forest cover. Today, only 10% has forest cover. And within that 10%, some of the forests are empty. He also indicated that just as recently as 20 years ago, we were earning about $200 million a year from the activities of timber merchants and so on and so forth. That's what the state was earning. Today, when we look at it, we are earning about 60 million. And the forests are gone. That's exactly what is going to happen in the case of gold. You cannot say that because we are generating some money from Galamsey, we should continue to destroy our country that way. Since this is our last question, let me also say that, you see, the red, the blood of the people who fought for us in the red, gold, green, they also knew that the middle was gold. Now today, the red is not independent from the gold. People are still dying, and more will die. And what is worse, in the process of mining for the gold, we are also destroying the forests. And not just the forests, we are destroying our water bodies, which feed the forests. So we have a serious problem. For me, the number one thing that we should think about is how we stop this Galamsey, not just Galamsey, any small scale mining. We just have to stop it, or else we are a dying country. That's our problem. That is our problem. For me, that is number one, number two, number three. Thank you.
Stop Galamsey now. Wonderful. Let me come to your leadership. Your top 3 action points for us as we wrap up.
Top 3 action points. 1, quality and truly quality basic level education for our young people. If we do not aim as a nation and commit 100% to assuring the production of quality, ethical children who on a merit-based system, we can forget about anything and everything, because if what you're going to be handing over is to mediocre and low quality new generation, we're not going to make any progress. And as Isaac has said, with the Galamsey that is going on, all that we are looking forward to will be a dead and broken country. So for me, it's the young people. Let's be more serious about what plans we have. Let's stop all the sloganism and the sloganing, and let's just structure quality education for the very young. Then we will be on a strong trajectory. Too, because you cannot put something on nothing, and that's what we're trying to do. Then the next thing is planning, government by planning, everything by planning. Every piece of work that is done must be done on the basis of a plan. Now, as we sit here, I have no idea really what the national plan for the next 5 years is, because the NDPC, which is supposed to be the body that comes up with the framework for our nation, its work is never properly published. Secondly, nobody is bound by it. Nobody is bound to it. Nobody is marked by it. No, you can't. In the smallest business, you will be able to succeed if you're working according to plan. If you're not planning, you can forget it. So, planning. Now, finally, service. That's the other thing. We are always talking about power. Service focus, service orientation. That is what we need. Now, I wrote here, when was the last time you heard politician speak of service rather than coming into power? That is the question I'm giving to the whole of Ghana. These are my three top priorities.
Wonderful.
Service orientation.
Thank you very much indeed. So, Ambassador says Galamsey 1, Galamsey 2, Galamsey 3. CJ says quality basic education, careful planning, service. So Ken, is there anything left for you to add?
Well, so first one is that you and I should leave this room being the change we want to see. We should be we should stop focusing on the problems. What change can you bring? For me, that's the first one. The second one is that, again, it segues into what her ladyship said, the issue about planning, but it should be data-led. It should be empirically based policies, regulations. And that's why once we sit here in Heritage Christian University, you as academia, you need to also be helping us with the research that we require to be able to base our policies on, and be prepared to challenge some of the policies, the regulations that come with government, not from a partisan point of view, but purely from your principles, from the data you are seeing and the research. That's very important. So that's number 2. The third one, which I put together, is integrity, accountability, and sacrifice. Integrity, accountability, and sacrifice. But all of that should be self. So we hold ourselves first accountable, we are prepared to sacrifice, and we also make sure that there's integrity. And as we do that, let's take that to our leaders. Let's not let democracy be, we go and vote every 4 years and we leave them to do what it is that they're doing. Let's hold our leaders accountable. Let's make sure they are also sacrificing, and let's make sure that leadership shows integrity as well. Thank you very much.
A round of applause. All right, so we have 5 minutes for on air. So I think I can take a couple of comments so that at least those who are hearing us will see those. Of course, this program will stream online for more than 2 hours, but since we advertise 3 to 5, I'd like to take a couple of comments from those here gathered. If there's any contribution or addition or question that you want to ask, if we can get the mics ready. Our advertised time for closing is 5 o'clock. It's 4:55. We want to stick to that time. So I'll take 1 or 2 quick comments for on air. So yes, if you can rise. Gentlemen, can you help me with the mic? We're still live on air. Channel 1 Television, Joy News TV, bringing you the 10th Heritage Christian University Public Dialogue on the theme Upholding Our Heritage One Facts, Red, Gold and Green. And please make it snappy so we can take 2 or 3. Thank you, sir.
All right, so my name is Dr. Esi and I teach at the Department of Theology and Ministry. My question is or concerns the subject of national identity, leadership and governance. And it may be directed to Ambassador Osei if you care to address it. I saw the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and to me that setting up that body suggests that events in a national history affects the psyche of the nation. One of the things I've been wondering about is the effect of colonialism on our national psyche, on our national identity. We've done something for military rules, but I've not seen anything done about the effect of what our nation has been through historically. So my question is this: do we think our history with colonialism has anything to do with what we are discussing? And 2, beyond the year of return, what should we do as a nation to redeem, recover, and reclaim our eroded national heritage occasioned by this phenomenon I'm referring to?
Thank you, sir. It's a 2-in-1. Can we take 2 more? Then we'll answer. Any more? Yes, sir. Please come forward. There's a gentleman in front. Yes, in white.
Thank you. So, Dr. Ashibe, you talk about activism But you note that in this country, because of the division, if you complain about Galamsey, either you are MPP or you are NDC, I think some few months ago on your Facebook, you were being accused of being MPP. And when MPP was in power, NDC was happy with your fight against Galamsey. Now NDC is in power and they are saying that you are MPP. So if we sitting here try to fight or speak against Galamsey, they say I'm NDC. So why don't I keep quiet? Well, it may affect my business or my position in the country. I think that, I don't know whether you have any comment to make.
Thank
on
you.
that.
So Kenda, you didn't mention your name. What's your name, sir? You didn't tell us your name.
Siwa Kwamensa.
See?
Siwa Kwamensa, Registrar Heritage.
Registrar, thank you. We'll take one or two more. Thank you.
Okay, it's a question, but it's something that we need to look at. The flexibility of our culture, in my view, made it possible for all that we've gone through. The success of the faith-based institutions, our schools, our politics and everything, vis-a-vis what we are going through as the modernized in quotes. How are we going to, when are we going to sit down, identify what these flexibilities cost us, the benefits we've gained from it, and then what has gone against us by those flexibilities? Let me give just a simple example. Christianity and Islam were embraced because our worldview was that there was the physical world which we should tap into for our benefits. So these two religions which came from outside, when they were also talking about their spirituality, why not? And for me, that accounts for why today, if you stand at the entrance of a church and you ask up men to gently strip down, you see those with talisman around their waist, holding Bible, coming to the church. How do we do work out for the benefit of what the culture is giving us? Thank you.
Thank you. Can we take one last one? One last one at the back. Oh, okay. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. In the front. Yes.
Sorry, my name is Richard Okra. I'm a pensioner. I think I was a bit late. I'm sorry about that, because I'm very fastidious about time. But my view is that public service is very key, to the maintenance of our heritage. Time was when the public service worked, and worked very independently. I can't say so for now. And I don't know whether the panelists would like to share any views on the importance of public service in ensuring that things do work in this country. I think I was listening to you, Bernard, the other time, driving home, and I heard you talking about zoning in this country. You talked about all these China malls being located. These people must have permits. Somebody, gave them permits to do what they did. But then, these are the, outcomes of poor public service activities. So I'd like to know from the panel if they can share any views on that aspect of our lives.
I'd like to thank our viewers on the traditional TV and radio, but we are still streaming. So those of you who are streaming, you can still keep watching. Also on True TV, we are still live. But for those who are on the traditional TV stations, we are going off because it's 5 o'clock. But we have taken 4 questions, if I can recall. Colonialism and its effect on some of the challenges we face, and how do we reclaim our national value.
What is always in front of you but can't be seen?
In front of me but can't be seen. Charlie.
Expect yourself. Expect yourself.
What have we talked, sir? Ghost.
You say
Ghost.
plenty ghosts dey town, but we don't see them.
Ghost.
What is always in front of you but can't be seen?
Let me say,
You say?
Hey, Kenny. What is always in front of you but can't be seen?
Yeah.
Attitude.
Try.
What is always in front of you but can't be seen?